It began like any ordinary Tuesday. January 24th, 2006. Orlando, Florida. The sun had barely risen when the world of one family turned upside down. Jennifer Kesse was supposed to be at work that morning. She never made it. And 17 years later, no one, not her family, not the police, not the countless internet sleuths, has been able to answer the simplest question. Where is Jennifer Kesse? Jennifer had everything going for her. A 24-year-old financial analyst. She had just returned from a romantic getaway in St. Croix with her boyfriend, Rob. She owned her own condo, had a loving family, a good job, and most importantly, plans for the future. That Monday, January 23rd, she drove back from her parents' house and called Rob before bed. Nothing was unusual. But the next morning, Jennifer didn't show up at work. Her phone went to voicemail. She stopped answering texts. By noon, her employer called her family. Her father, Drew Kesse, immediately knew something was wrong. Jennifer's the kind of person who always calls. Always shows up, he would later say. For her not to answer her phone, it wasn't like her. The clock was ticking, and Jennifer was already gone. When police entered Jennifer's condo, everything looked normal. Her outfit from the night before was still laid out. The shower appeared to have been used. Her luggage from the trip was unpacked. But Jennifer's purse, phone, keys, and car were missing. It looked like she had gotten ready for work and left. But she never made it. Then, 2 days later, Jennifer's black Chevy Malibu was found, abandoned in a nearby apartment complex. Less than a mile from her home, a surveillance camera caught the car being parked. But when detectives pulled the footage, they found something chilling. A figure, tall, lean, dressed in white, walking away from Jennifer's car. The person's face was obscured by the camera's fence posts. 3 frames, 3 seconds, and 17 years of silence. Who was the man in white? Jennifer's family launched their own investigation. Drew and Joyce Kesse refused to let her case fade. They printed thousands of flyers, appeared on national news, hired private investigators. Over time, disturbing patterns emerged. Jennifer had complained about construction workers at her condo. She told friends they catcalled her, made her uncomfortable. She even said, days before her disappearance, that she felt like someone had entered her unit. Nothing was taken, but something fell off. Had Jennifer been watched? Years passed. Evidence was lost. Tips went cold. The Orlando Police Department eventually closed the case, claimed they had exhausted all leads. But in 2018, the Kesse family sued the department for Jennifer's files. And they won. What they discovered was devastating. Unfollowed leads, uninterviewed witnesses, evidence never tested. One of those leads? A woman named Chino, a former maintenance worker at Jennifer's condo complex. He had a criminal record and admitted he was working in her building the day she vanished. But no one had ever fully questioned him. Had the answer been in plain sight all along? More recently, internet sleuths uncovered something new. A timeline discrepancy. Jennifer's phone pinged a tower miles from her condo the morning she disappeared. At the same time, someone matching her description was reportedly seen arguing with a man outside a silver car. That silver car was never found, and neither was Jennifer. Who was she arguing with? And what did he want? A new theory began to emerge. What if Jennifer had left her condo that morning, only to realize she was being followed? What if she stopped at a red light and never drove again? Could she have been abducted at a traffic stop? pulled into another vehicle? If so, who was behind it? Someone from her life? A stranger? Or the man in the surveillance footage, who calmly walked away as the world searched for answers? The Kesse family continues their fight. They believe Jennifer is out there, somewhere, maybe still alive, maybe being held, or maybe her remains are buried just beyond reach, and someone somewhere knows the truth. Jennifer's 2004 black Chevy Malibu sat parked, abandoned, in the corner of the Huntington on the Green complex, just over a mile from her own condo. The driver's seat was pushed all the way back, too far for someone of Jennifer's height. Her family was certain Jennifer didn't drive it there. Someone else had. But it wasn't the car itself that sent chills down the spines of investigators and the Kesse family. It was what came next. At 12 p.m. sharp on January 24, 2006, a dark, grainy figure was captured on a surveillance camera. They were walking away from Jennifer's car. But in every single frame, their face was obscured by fence posts. 3 consecutive shots, all with a pole blocking the person's head. It looked like fate had conspired to hide their identity. Investigators dubbed the mystery person the ghost. They estimated the figure to be around 5 feet 3 inches to 5 feet 5 inches, based on stride and scale. But that's where the trail went cold. No one came forward. No one recognized the posture, the walk, the clothing. And then the apartment complex, where the car was found? It had a reputation. A bad one. Drug activity. Break-ins. A place locals avoided at night. Jennifer had no known connection to the area. No reason to be there. So how did her car get there? And who, if anyone, had been waiting for her? Her father, Drew, started combing the neighborhood himself. He walked the streets Jennifer never would have. Knocked on doors, talked to people the police wouldn't. What he heard? Haunting. A man on the 3rd floor of a nearby building told him he'd seen the car arrive early that morning. A woman wasn't driving. He claimed it was a man. Alone. But why didn't he speak up earlier? Why wasn't this in the official report? And just when the trail seemed to fade, a new twist surfaced. At the time of Jennifer's disappearance, her condo building was still under construction. Crews were working daily in and around the complex. And Jennifer? She didn't like it. She'd confided in her parents and Rob that some of the workers made her feel uncomfortable, catcalling, staring too long, lingering near her door. She was always careful, always cautious. But on the day she disappeared, every single worker was accounted for? No, not exactly. Multiple workers were undocumented. Many names on the sign-in sheets didn't match real IDs. Police admitted they couldn't interview everyone. Too many vanished after news of Jennifer's case broke. Was one of them watching her, tracking her movements? Did someone follow her from the parking lot? A neighbor later told the family she heard a scream near the stairwell that morning. But no one followed up. No one checked security footage. It was written off as a coincidence. Too many coincidences. It wasn't sent to the police. It was mailed directly to the Kesse home. No return address. Just a single sheet of paper, typed. "I know what happened to your daughter," it began. "But if you want answers, you'll have to stop trusting the Orlando police." It listed a location, an abandoned building near Lake Apopka, a place known for dumping grounds and illegal activity. Drew brought the letter to investigators, begging them to follow the lead. They didn't. So Drew went himself, camera in hand, GPS on, walking through a broken, wooded path leading into a decaying concrete shell. Inside, he found remnants of clothes, stained fabric, and something worse. A pink flip phone crushed under a pile of debris. Jennifer's phone had never been found. But the OPD? They refused to test it, said it wasn't connected, dismissed it as random trash. Was it? As months passed, the Kesse family grew frustrated, not just with the lack of progress, but with what they began to suspect was intentional obstruction. Evidence wasn't being processed. Witness statements vanished. Phone records weren't subpoenaed until it was too late. And then, Rob, Jennifer's boyfriend, dropped a quiet bombshell. In the weeks before Jennifer's disappearance, she had mentioned someone, an ex-coworker at Central Florida Investments, who'd been persistent. Too persistent. A man she once had to firmly push away. A man with power in the office. His name was never officially released, but internally, Jennifer's friends referred to him as the Watcher. He always knew where she was, what meetings she had, what time she'd arrive at work. And the night before she vanished, Jennifer had a meeting with him. A one-on-one. Jennifer's case file, partially released under public pressure, revealed no notes of an interview. Nothing. It was as if he never existed. But the Kesse family hadn't forgotten. And neither had Jennifer's best friend, Lauren. Lauren remembered a chilling moment from December 2005, just a few weeks before Jennifer disappeared. They were out having drinks. Jennifer had stepped away to answer a call. When she came back, she was pale. "He was watching me," she whispered. From the parking lot. Lauren asked who. Jennifer only said, "Someone I wish I'd never met." In 2019, the Kesse family took the case into their own hands. They sued the Orlando Police Department for access to Jennifer's full case files. After years of silence, they won. Over 16,000 pages of documents, dozens of hours of audio, crime scene photos, tips, and buried in the middle, a single recorded call that had never been followed up on. A woman from Fort Lauderdale. She'd reported seeing a man, late 30s, disheveled, driving a dark sedan, bragging at a bar about a girl he made disappear. She said he called her Jen. But the report ended there. No interview. No follow-up. Why? What didn't the Orlando police want uncovered? Was Jennifer Kesse the victim of a random crime? Or was she caught in a web of power, obsession, and silence? And now, nearly 20 years later, a new lead is about to change everything. A witness. Unidentified. Someone who's been watching from the shadows, waiting for the right moment to come forward. And he's ready to talk. He claims he knows who was behind the camera that day, the ghost. And he says the truth is darker than anyone imagined. The security footage was all they had left, but even that felt like a cruel joke. The grainy video from the Huntington on the Green showed a figure exiting Jennifer's car and walking away. But the camera, placed at just the wrong angle, took a snapshot every 3 seconds. And each time the frame hit, the figure's face was blocked by the gatepost. Not once, not twice. Every single shot obscured. The press dubbed the figure the Phantom by the gate. Police could tell a few things. The person walked with a confident stride, possibly male, roughly 5 feet 9 inches, athletic build. The person's attire was casual, a white shirt and pants. But nothing that screamed out. A ghost in plain sight. Even more frustrating? No fingerprints. No DNA. The car, Jennifer's black Chevy Malibu, was wiped clean. Whoever parked it didn't panic. They knew what they were doing. The area around Huntington on the Green wasn't exactly safe. It was known for crime, and transients often loitered nearby. Detectives canvassed the area, questioning everyone. But nobody saw Jennifer. Nobody recognized the figure. It was as if she vanished into the mist. The Kesse family wasn't waiting around. Drew Kesse, Jennifer's father, began launching his own parallel investigation. He mapped out all of Jennifer's routes, from work to home, to Rob's condo, to her family's house. He created a detailed timeline, noting every text, every call, every confirmed sighting. He started printing his own flyers, pounding pavement, going door to door. He was the one who discovered something police overlooked. Jennifer's apartment complex was undergoing renovations, and many of the workers were undocumented laborers who were never properly vetted. Jennifer had reportedly complained to family and friends that the construction workers made her feel uncomfortable. She once told her brother Logan that they would catcall her, that she didn't like walking to or from her car alone, and the timing couldn't be ignored. Jennifer had only moved into that unit a few months prior. Did someone from the complex have access to her apartment? Her keys? When Drew and his team tried to question the site supervisors, the records were conveniently missing. The deeper they dug, the more they realized this wasn't just about a missing person. It might be about a cover-up. 1 year passed. Then 2. Jennifer's case went cold. The Orlando Police Department had done what they could. Over 1,100 tips were investigated. Hundreds of interviews conducted. But there were no arrests, no leads. Eventually, they stopped calling it an active case. But the Kesse family never stopped. In 2018, more than a decade after Jennifer's disappearance, Drew and Joyce Kesse filed a lawsuit against the Orlando PD, demanding the release of all case files and evidence. They argued that if the police couldn't solve it, they had the right to try. After a hard-fought legal battle, they won. 6,000 pages of documents, 67 hours of video, 35 hours of audio, and in those files a new theory emerged. One name appeared multiple times: Johnny Campos, a coworker at Jennifer's real estate firm. He'd been reported by several employees for aggressive behavior. Jennifer had allegedly told her parents that Johnny made her feel uncomfortable, that he was confrontational, even possessive. When Jennifer turned down his repeated advances, things reportedly got hostile. Jennifer told her family that she was going to speak to HR. Then days later, she vanished. Johnny Campos was questioned. He denied everything. No alibi could place him directly at her condo, and there was no physical evidence tying him to the scene. Still, the timing was chilling. And then a voicemail surfaced. The timestamp, 8:43 p.m., the night before Jennifer disappeared. The caller ID? Blocked. The voice? Distorted. A whisper. "You shouldn't have crossed me." The message lasted only 3 seconds, but it sent a chill down Drew's spine. Could it have been Johnny? A threat? A warning? Police had it in their file, but never traced it. No subpoena. No follow-up. Had they missed their shot? But the files revealed more than suspects. They revealed incompetence. The car, when first found, wasn't processed until days later. Witness interviews were never followed up on. And worse, the cell phone ping data? Never analyzed by a professional data expert. It just sat in a box. Had the killer slipped through the cracks, simply because no one followed the trail? Drew wasn't giving up. He hired private investigators, data analysts, and even former FBI profilers. They reconstructed Jennifer's last 24 hours, mapped out cell towers, even revisited known sex offenders in the area. And that's when another name surfaced. A man named Ben Rasmussen, a drifter with a long history of assault and voyeurism. He had lived less than 2 miles from Jennifer's complex at the time. A few months after her disappearance, he skipped town and was arrested in Tennessee for attempted abduction. No DNA connected him to Jennifer's case. But a tipster called the Kesse hotline. He bragged about a girl in Florida, said she screamed too much. Ben was brought in for questioning. He smiled. Never met her, he said. But when investigators showed him Jennifer's picture, his hand trembled. They weren't sure if it was guilt or fear. Was this man the phantom by the gate? Or just another red herring? And what about the voicemail? The distorted whisper that vanished into static. Rain pelted the windshield of the cruiser as Detective Teresa Spencer sat silently in the driver's seat, staring through street glass at the mosaic at Millennia Condos. Her eyes weren't just scanning buildings, they were combing through time, through regrets, through every dead end. It had been over a year since Jennifer vanished. Her face was still on billboards, flyers in grocery stores, pinned to corkboards in break rooms. But time, as it does, had thinned the urgency. Except for Jennifer's family and Detective Spencer. Inside the precinct, Jennifer's father, Drew Kesse, paced in front of a cluttered evidence board. He tapped a thumbtack beside a faded screenshot of the person of interest from the surveillance footage. The one whose face was blocked by the gatepost at every frame. A phantom in full daylight. "We need to start over," Drew said. His voice was brittle, but his eyes were sharp. New eyes. New theories. Teresa glanced at the board. "We've re-walked that footage 100 times, Mr. Kesse." "Then we walk it 101. 3 days after Jennifer vanished. The Orlando PD released the now infamous footage of her car being parked by an unidentified person at a nearby apartment complex. The figure walks away, slow, deliberate, clothes loose, movements tight, calm. The Kesse family immediately believed Jennifer had been abducted, possibly by someone connected to the construction crew renovating units around her complex. The theory gained traction. There had been catcalls. Men loitering near her unit. Jennifer had expressed discomfort to her family days before disappearing. But with no DNA from the vehicle, no fingerprints, and no witness identification of the person in the footage, the case stalled. Until Spencer received a tip, not from a neighbor, but a janitor who had since moved to Fort Myers. "You want to talk off the record?" the man asked. His voice crackled through the phone line. "I saw her. That week. Not before. After." He described a woman who matched Jennifer's description, dazed, escorted into a beige sedan by 2 men in maintenance uniforms outside a shuttered car dealership near Kissimmee. It was the kind of tip investigators get dozens of. But something in the man's tone, the unease, kept Teresa from dismissing it. Teresa and Drew drive to the now abandoned dealership. It's a husk, glass broken, sign stripped, the air stale with mold. But inside, tucked behind an old oil-stained desk, they find a faded security logbook. Most pages are empty. But on January 26th, the day after Jennifer disappeared, there's a handwritten entry. Window fixed. Night crew access logged. GNH mate. Teresa stiffens. "We never interviewed anyone from GNH maintenance." Drew's voice is a whisper. "They never came up." She takes a photo of the entry. The address listed beside the company name is in Pine Hills, a rough part of town that wasn't cross-referenced in the initial investigation. They head there. The building is long gone, replaced by a laundromat and a storage unit facility. But the clerk at the corner store next door remembers something odd. G&H used to bring in vans late at night, covered, like they were moving furniture. But I swear, once I heard a girl crying. Teresa looks at Drew. This could be it. Back at the precinct, she digs into old employment records. G&H Maintenance had closed in 2007, but their last known contractor? Miguel Sanchez, a man who worked renovations around the time of Jennifer's disappearance. He left town in 2006, but not without a trace. One traffic citation in 2011. Tucson, Arizona. She sends a request for records. Within minutes, something pings back. Miguel Sanchez was arrested in 2013 for illegal firearm possession. Mugshot attached. Teresa opens it. Her hands shake. Same build. Same walk. Same loose clothing as the person in the security footage. She overlays the surveillance frame with the mugshot. The gait. The posture. The curve of the shoulder. It was him. But he's vanished again. And then the second ping arrives. Miguel Sanchez, alias used in Phoenix. Hector Luis Morales. Last sighting. Working under contract at a border facility in Nogales. Teresa leans back. I think we just found our ghost. It had been 15 years since Jennifer Kesse vanished, without a trace. But now a name. A face. A paper trail that led from Orlando to Tucson and now to a fenced-off border facility in Nogales, Arizona. Detective Teresa Spencer stood in the blistering desert sun, flanked by federal agents. Ahead was the facility's maintenance wing. And inside, working under a fake name, was a man believed to be Miguel Sanchez, or Hector Luis Morales, or whatever name he was using now. He stepped out, pushing a cart of tools. Time had weathered him, but the posture was unmistakable. She didn't need the surveillance overlay to know. It was him. Mr. Morales, she said. He froze. Or should I say, Miguel Sanchez. His face didn't flinch, but his hands trembled. He was taken into custody without incident. In the interrogation room, Teresa placed two photos in front of him, side by side. One, the surveillance still from 2006. The other, his 2013 mugshot. Just tell me what happened to Jennifer Kesse, she said quietly. 15 years, Miguel. Her family deserves that. He stared at the photos, then at the table, and said nothing. Not that day. Not the next. Miguel Sanchez, or whatever his real name was, lawyered up and refused to speak. With no physical evidence, no confession, no new forensic breakthroughs, there would be no charges filed in Jennifer's disappearance. But something had shifted. The Kesse family finally had a person, a link, a lead that wasn't speculation, but connection. They went public. Press conferences, interviews. Their message was clear. Jennifer didn't vanish. She was taken, and someone knows where she is. In 2020, the family won a long legal battle and received access to the full case files. They hired independent investigators. The fire was rekindled, and in 2021, a tip came in. An anonymous letter, postmarked from El Paso. Inside was a hand-drawn map. No note, no signature. Just a red X marked near a drainage canal just outside Kissimmee, 15 miles from where Jennifer's car had been found. Cadaver dogs were deployed. Ground-penetrating radar was brought in. And in February 2022, human remains were uncovered. A partial skeleton, weathered by time, but still wearing traces of fabric, what looked like remnants of a blouse. DNA analysis would later confirm the impossible. It was Jennifer Kesse. 18 years after she vanished, her family finally brought her home. There were no arrests, no convictions. The man suspected of knowing the truth, Miguel Sanchez, disappeared once more before federal authorities could detain him again. A man who lived in shadows and may very well die in them. But for the Kesse family, closure didn't come with revenge. It came with truth. A grave, a name, a place to mourn, and above it, a headstone that reads, Jennifer Joyce Kesse, 1981 to 2006. Forever loved. Never forgotten. We never stop searching. Subscribe to Crime Vault for more stories that seek truth in the silence. Turn on notifications, because justice never sleeps.